The year is 1969. The world watches in excitement as humans take their first steps on the moon. But on Earth, another breakthrough is about to shake the foundations of timekeeping. Seiko, a Japanese watch company, is ready to reveal something that will change everything. At midnight on Christmas Day, Seiko introduces the Quartz Astron, a watch that doesn't tick in the traditional way. Until now, all watches have been powered by mechanical movements with tiny, complex systems of gears and springs. This new watch from Seiko operates on a different principle entirely. It uses a quartz crystal to measure time, making it incredibly accurate. And this is only the beginning. Today, we will understand what is Quartz Crisis, how Seiko destroyed Swiss dominance, did mechanical watches come back, and can smartwatches be the next crisis? And at the end, we try to predict the future of watchmaking. The Seiko Quartz Astron wasn't just another watch, it was a technological marvel that would redefine the very essence of timekeeping. But to truly understand this breakthrough, we need to go back to where it all began. Seiko's journey started in 1881, when a young entrepreneur named Kintaro Hattori opened a small clock repair shop in Tokyo. At just 21 years old, Hattori had a bold vision to craft timepieces that combined innovation and precision, making luxury accessible to everyone. In Japan, where most timepieces were imported, Hattori dared to dream bigger. By 1892, he established his own factory, Seikosha, meaning house of exquisite and precision manufacturing. His goal was clear: to produce clocks and eventually watches with the utmost precision. His dedication to innovation and craftsmanship quickly turned Seiko into Japan's top watchmaker. During World War II, he was producing kamikaze watches that I briefly mentioned in my video about most important military watches of 20th century. By the 1950s, Seiko was not only producing the first watches ever made in Japan, but also setting the stage for a global breakthrough. Kintaro's rule was keep every promise, no matter how difficult. Guided by his spirit, Seiko took a historic leap in 1969. Far from Swiss Alps luxury dominance, it revealed a watch that shook the entire industry. But the Quartz Astron didn't just change how accurate watches were. It also changed how watches were made. Traditional mechanical watches needed skilled workers to carefully put together hundreds of tiny parts. The Astron, though, could be mostly made by machines, which meant it was faster and cheaper to produce. This opened the door to a future where anyone could own a super accurate watch. For hundreds of years, only the rich could afford a watch this precise. Now, Seiko is making it possible for everyone. This was a huge shift. Timekeeping was no longer just for elite, it was for everyone. When the news of Astron spread, people had mixed reactions. Some thought it was just a fun gadget and didn't understand how important it was. Others saw it as a serious threat to the Swiss tradition of making watches. Many Swiss watchmakers dismissed quartz. After all, could this technology really threaten century-old craftsmanship? What do you think? Could they actually anticipate the storm that was coming? The first batch of Astrons was limited only to 100 pieces. And each watch sold for as much as Toyota Corolla at that time. Even though it was expensive, the demand was huge. People who loved watches and technology were desperate to get their hands on one. The true power of the Astron didn't hit the world all at once. Like a pebble dropped in the pond, the impact took time to spread. In the years that followed, quartz technology improved even more. Watches got smaller, cheaper, and even more accurate. Seiko had opened the floodgates, and the world of watchmaking would never be the same again. But as Seiko technology spread, let's see how the titans of Swiss watchmaking reacted to this seismic shift. While Seiko's amazing new watch was making waves in the watch world, Swiss watchmakers stayed calm. Maybe too calm. How could an entire industry ignore such a big threat? The Swiss watchmakers were too confident, thinking their way of making watches would never be beaten. To understand why the Swiss reacted this way, let's look at how things were in the 1960s. The Swiss watch industry was made up of small, family-owned businesses. Each one was focused on making specific parts of mechanical watches. This way of working kept their tradition strong, but made it hard for them to change quickly when new technology like quartz came along. The Swiss believed their mechanical watches with all their tiny gears and springs were like works of art. They saw quartz watches with their electronic parts as machines with no soul. To them, quartz watches didn't have the magic of a mechanical watch. This thinking was very different from how Seiko saw things. While the Swiss were improving old methods, Seiko was working on new ones. Seiko saw quartz as a chance to change the way time was kept forever. For a Swiss, making watches wasn't just a business. It was a huge part of their national pride. Embracing quartz felt like giving up on their traditions. This attachment to the past made it hard for many Swiss watchmakers to see how powerful quartz technology could be, even as the evidence grew. Another reason the Swiss were slow to change was money. In the 1960s, Swiss watches ruled the global market, especially in luxury. Many Swiss executives thought their expensive mechanical watches would always have a place, no matter what technology came along. But this overconfidence led them to underestimate how much quartz watches could shake things up. Inside Swiss watch companies, some people saw the warning signs. They knew quartz was a big deal, but their voices were often ignored by others who thought there was no need to change something that had always worked. As one Swiss executive reportedly said, quartz may be accurate, but it doesn't have the soul of a true watch. The attitude led to big problems. While the Swiss hesitated, companies like Seiko and Citizen improved quartz technology. Their watches became more affordable and available to everyone. Each year that passed widened the gap between the Swiss tradition and the fast-growing quartz revolution. There were warning signs, but the Swiss still ignored them. What could possibly bring the powerful Swiss watch industry to its knees? The quartz revolution picked up speed quickly, and we also described it in our video about Swatch. In 1970, almost all watches, 96% to be precise, were mechanical. But by 1964, quartz watches had grabbed 32% of the market, and by 78, more than a half. And the rise of quartz watches changed the world for watchmaking right in front of everyone's eyes. Swiss watchmakers, who were used to being on top, found it hard to keep up. People loved how precise and cheap quartz watches were, and many buyers started choosing them over traditional mechanical watches. The Swiss watches began to lose their appeal. Then, electronic companies jumped into the watch market. Big names like Texas Instruments and Casio saw a chance to take over, using their skills in technology and mass production to make even cheaper and more innovative quartz watches. They only sped up the growth of quartz, making it even more popular. As more battery-powered watches hit the market, prices dropped fast. When Seiko first released the Quartz Astron in 1969, it cost as much as a car. But in the mid-70s, quartz watches were much more affordable, meaning more people could now own a precise watch. This shift was a huge threat to Swiss watchmakers, who had always relied on their reputation for accuracy to charge high prices. The big question everyone was asking: how would traditional watchmakers respond? Would they jump on the quartz train or risk leaving behind centuries of mechanical watchmaking? Or would they stick with their old ways, hoping that people would still want watches crafted with care? Some Swiss brands started exploring quartz technology, but many were unsure and slow to act. The Swiss watch industry, once the top player in the world, was now in a deep trouble. Thousands of jobs were at risk, and towns that depended on making watches didn't know what their future held. With the quartz revolution on a full swing, the Swiss watch industry faced a crossroads: innovate or perish. Would their response come too late? While Swiss watchmakers were having a hard time, their Japanese competitors were having the best years of their lives. What made Japan's watch industry soar while Switzerland's struggled? As the Quartz Crisis hit harder, the impact on Switzerland was devastating. In a few years, the watch industry lost over 60,000 jobs. in half of its workforce. Towns in Jura Mountains, once full of busy watchmakers, now had empty factories and skilled workers with no jobs. Meanwhile, in Japan, things couldn't have been more different. As Swiss watch exports fell, Japanese brands like Seiko and Citizen grew even stronger. They were riding the wave of quartz technology that they had helped create. Their factories were working at full speed, making millions of affordable and super accurate watches. People all over the world were buying them up. The shift affected more than just the watchmakers. Companies that made parts of Swiss watches like dials and cases saw their orders to vanish. Towns that had lived off the watch industry for generations were now facing hard times. Local businesses struggled as people lost their job and spending dropped. For many Swiss watchmakers, the crisis was personal. These were people who had spent their own lives perfecting the art of making mechanical watches. Now, it seemed like their skills didn't matter anymore. Many had to make tough decisions about what to do next. And this was only one side of the problem. It was clearly mentioned in the article from Europe Star and summarized perfectly at WatchCrunch by Firebolt.
When Japanese and American companies introduced affordable quartz watches, the Swiss industry struggled to compete, exacerbated by the appreciation of the Swiss franc, due to the collapse of the Bretton Woods Agreement that kept the Swiss franc artificially low for 2 decades.
In the early 1960s, the American government took legal action against the Swiss watch industry. The United States Department of Justice filed an antitrust lawsuit against Swiss watch manufacturers, accusing them of engaging in anti-competitive practices. These practices included price fixing and restricting exports of watch parts to limit competition. Forced by American courts, the Swiss government dropped many of the restrictions and price controls by '64. This regulatory shift allowed the Swiss watchmakers to modernize their production methods, albeit painful, paved the way for the development of Swiss quartz technology and a renewed focus on high-end mechanical watches, contributing to the industry's eventual recovery and resurgence. As things got worse, Swiss leaders had to decide how to save the watch industry. Some wanted to protect their market from outside competition. Others argued that they needed to invest big in quartz technology to catch up with Japan. The debate was heated and the future of Swiss watchmaking was at stake. But even in these dark times, some Swiss watchmakers started to fight back. They realized that they had to change if they wanted to survive. These companies would play a big role in bringing Swiss watchmaking back to life, but the road ahead wouldn't be easy. As the Swiss watch industry stood on the edge of collapse, an unexpected hero appeared. What if the very technology was threatened to destroy Swiss watchmaking could also save it? That is the story of how one bold move helped change Swiss watch history and showed the power of innovation. Enter Longines, a famous Swiss watchmaker with a long history going back to 1832. In a surprising move, Longines decided to embrace quartz technology early on. While many of its competitors were still unsure about quartz, Longines took a big risk with its 1969 Ultra Quartz model. This watch combined swift precision with the power of quartz, pointing to a new path for the struggling industry. Little did they know, this decision to embrace quartz might be their only lifeline, or their final mistake. The future of Swiss horology hung in balance. They had spent decades perfecting mechanical watches, so switching to electronic watches wasn't something they could do quickly. They had to learn new skills, buy new machines, and completely change how they made watches. And for companies that were already losing money, this was a huge financial challenge. Different brands responded in different ways. Omega decided to play it safe by making both mechanical and quartz watches. Patek Philippe doubled down on its tradition of mechanical craftsmanship, while Rolex tried to balance both worlds with its Oyster Quartz line, a quartz watch that didn't become too popular. Swiss companies tried many strategies to catch up with quartz technology. Some companies teamed up to share the cost of research and development. Others partnered with electronics firms to use their expertise in making high-tech parts of quartz watches. But not every attempt worked. The Swiss-led Beta 21 project which was supposed to compete with Seiko's Quartz movement, was a big failure. It was too expensive and too late to the market, so it didn't sell well, even though some big Swiss brands were involved. From this failure, Swiss watchmakers learned important lessons. They realized that just making quartz watches wasn't enough. They needed to make quartz watches that still had the luxury and craftsmanship people expected from Swiss brands. This idea led to the creation of high-end quartz watches that could compete with the best mechanical one in terms of prestige and price. By the 80s, Swiss quartz watches started to really take off. Brands like Tissot and Certina launched affordable quartz watches that could compete directly with the Japanese. Even luxury brands like Cartier started using quartz movements in their fancy designs, proving that electronic watches could also be luxurious. And then the Mr. Swatch arrived to the Swiss arena. In 1983, when the Swiss watch industry was at the lowest point, a man named Nicholas Hayek had a bold idea. The man whom many now call the savior of Swiss watchmaking wasn't just a businessman. He was a visionary. Facing what looked like the end of the era, Hayek wasn't ready to give up without a fight. While many saw only failure, Hayek saw an opportunity. He proposed something radical, a high-quality Swiss-made quartz watch that was both affordable and stylish. This idea would become a swatch. At first, many people in the Swiss watch world thought this was a bad idea. They worried that making cheap watches would hurt the Swiss brand, which had always been known for luxury and precision. But Hayek didn't give up. He pushed forward with his new approach. What made Swatch special wasn't just the price. Its design and manufacturing process were groundbreaking. Swatch watches were made quickly and cheaply, but without losing the Swiss quality people expected. And Swatch wasn't just a watch. It became a cultural phenomenon. Swatch watches came in bright colors with interchangeable straps and fun designs. They weren't just for telling time. They were fashion accessories. People started collecting them, especially the limited edition models and artist collaborations. Swatch attracted younger, trendier buyers, a group that the traditional Swiss watch industry had struggled to reach.
What if he goes for the square?
Not gonna happen.
The response was huge. Swatch quickly gained a large share of the market and brought new life to the Swiss watch industry. Its success provided the money the Swiss watchmakers needed to invest in research and development. Even more importantly, it brought excitement back to Swiss watchmaking, proving that Switzerland could still be a leader in innovation. The success of Swatch didn't stop there. The Swatch Group was formed by merging two major Swiss companies, Assouak and Sich, creating a major player in the watch industry. This new group owned brands at every price level, from affordable Swatch to luxury names like Omega and Breguet. This strategy, known as a Hayek pyramid, used the profits from Swatch to help fund the revival of traditional Swiss watchmaking. Thanks to Swatch, the Swiss industry was saved from collapse and had a bright future ahead. While Swatch was taking over the affordable watch market, something unexpected was happening on the other end. Mechanical watches, once seen as outdated, were making a surprising comeback. These complex, handcrafted timepieces were suddenly turned into luxury items, selling for prices that could make even experienced collectors stop in their tracks. How did these old-fashioned watches go from being almost forgotten to become super valuable? The 90s saw a huge change in the world of mechanical watches. Here's one amazing example: the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, which sold for almost $800 in '72, was now worth over $24,000. This wasn't just a fluke. Mechanical watches were becoming more and more desirable. These watches, which had nearly disappeared during the Quartz Crisis, were rising from the ashes. People started to appreciate mechanical watches again. They began to value the craftsmanship and tradition that came with these watches in a world that was becoming more digital every single day. Mechanical watches represented a connection to history and human skill that quartz watches couldn't offer. This was craftsmanship populated by marketing genius of Rolex that we did in one in our videos. The weight of a mechanical watch on your wrist, the smooth sweep of a second hand, and the satisfying click of winding its crown all remind you that you're holding a masterpiece of human ingenuity. Marketing played a big part in this revival. In the 80s and 90s, brands like Blancpain and Jaeger-LeCoultre ran campaigns that focused on the artistry and skill needed to make mechanical watches. They presented these watches as wearable pieces of art representing centuries of horological tradition. Watch collectors and enthusiasts started to see mechanical watches as more than just accessories. They were intricate machines that told stories, carried history, and showed off the best of human craftsmanship. This emotional connection made people want them even more, pushing prices higher and higher. Technical innovation also helped bring mechanical watches back to life. For example, Seiko's magic lever system made automatic watches wind more efficiently, showing that even traditional watchmaking could still be improved. Their Grand Seiko line, first launched in '60, kept proving that there was still a place for well-crafted mechanical watches even in a world full of quartz. By the late 90s, mechanical watches were being marketed as luxury items. Brands like Rolex and Patek Philippe highlighted their rich history and exclusivity of their watches. This helped create a new market for high-end mechanical watches, turning them into status symbols that collectors and enthusiasts were eager to own. The comeback of mechanical watches completely changed the luxury watch market. Brands that had shifted to quartz during the crisis now returned to their mechanical roots with renewed energy. Limited edition models and complicated watches became highly sought after, and their prices skyrocketed, something that would have been unthinkable this decade before. And now it is interesting what happened to Seiko. Kintaro Hattori once said, "Almost one step ahead of the rest." Seiko's quartz innovation was just that, far ahead of its time. But as competitors began flooding the market, could Seiko maintain its edge? At first, this new technology was a huge success for Seiko, but soon the very quartz technologies that made Seiko stand out began to hurt the brand. As more and more companies started making cheap quartz watches, Seiko had to compete in a market flooded with these affordable timepieces. This new situation made Seiko rethink its strategy. The company had to figure out how to stand out from all of the other brands making quartz watches. Seiko's image had to change. It needed to be seen as both a leader in innovation and a brand that could offer something more than just affordable quartz watches. To solve this problem, Seiko took a multi-layered approach. The company kept pushing forward with quartz technology, adding cool new features like solar power and radio-controlled timekeeping. At the same time, Seiko didn't forget about mechanical watches. It knew that many people still loved the craftsmanship and tradition of these classic timepieces. One of Seiko's smartest moves was launching the Grand Seiko, line back in '60. This high-end brand was designed to compete with the Swiss luxury watches, and it ended up surviving the Quartz Crisis, becoming a well-respected name in the world of luxury watches. Even so, the main Seiko brand became known for affordable quartz watches. Grand Seiko helped stay in the luxury market. Looking to the future, Seiko's strategy continues to evolve. The company is investing more in its luxury side, especially through Grand Seiko, which became its own brand in 2017. This decision helped Grand Seiko strengthen the place in the luxury market, while the main Seiko brand still offers a wide range of more affordable quartz watches. Today, Seiko holds a unique place in the global watch market. It's one of the biggest watchmakers in the world, producing over 10 million watches every year. I also provided a list of some affordable Seiko watches in the description. Seiko's success comes from its ability to offer everything from affordable quartz watches to high-end mechanical ones, showing that it's a brand with something for everyone. Seiko huge watch production numbers are just the beginning of the story. Did you know that even though Switzerland makes less than 2% of the world's watches today, they account for more than half of the value of the entire watch industry? This surprising fact shows how much the watch world has changed since the Quartz revolution, where quality and quantity now play very different roles. The watch industry has gone through the major transformation since the Quartz Crisis. Back then, Swiss mechanical watches ruled the market. But today, it's a much more diverse and complex industry, with traditional watchmaking countries like Switzerland working alongside with new players. China has become the largest producer of watches in the world, focusing on making affordable timepieces. This has allowed countries like Switzerland to focus on making high-end luxury watches where craftsmanship, heritage, and exclusivity are the key. The rise of fashion watches and smartwatches has also added to the mix, giving consumers more choices and styles to fit their needs. The market for quartz and mechanical watches has become more divided. Quartz watches are all about accuracy and affordability when they dominate in terms of the numbers. Mechanical watches, on the other hand, have found new life in the luxury world. Their complexity and craftsmanship make them highly valued, with prices to match. Some brands manage to do both, offering quartz and everyday buyer and mechanical watches for those seeking something special. Established watch brands have adapted to these changes in interesting ways. Many Swiss brands have doubled down on their luxury image, investing in marketing and keeping control of their entire production process. Japanese companies like Seiko continue to offer affordable quartz watches, but are also pushing into the high-end market. Looking ahead, several new trends are shaping the future of the watch industry. Smartwatches are becoming more popular, especially with younger people. Sustainability is also becoming a bigger focus, with watch brands looking for eco-friendly materials and production methods. The rise of online shopping and direct-to-consumer sales is also changing how people buy watches, pushing brands to rethink their sales strategies. Have you noticed how many smartwatches are around nowadays? Maybe you're wearing one right now. But when was the last time you saw someone with a mechanical watch on the wrist? And this creates a question in my mind. Are smartwatches the new Quartz Crisis? Imagine a device on your wrist that not only tells time, but also tracks your health, answers calls, and even lets you pay for your coffee. Sounds like something from the future, right? Well, the future is already here, and it's changing the world of watches in a big way. The rise of smartwatches has brought a huge shift in the watch industry. In 2020, over 1 million smartwatches were sold worldwide, a 20% jump from the year before. And this growth isn't slowing down. By 2025, it's expected that more than 200 million smartwatches will be sold each year. Smartwatches are changing what people expect from a watch. They're not just for tech lovers anymore. Lots of people want watches that help with their everyday lives. The impact of smartwatches on traditional watchmaking is huge. Quartz watches once challenged mechanical watches by being more affordable and accurate. Now, smartwatches are changing the game by offering way more than just timekeeping. They are like personal assistants, fitness trackers, and communication tools, all in one small piece. Traditional watchmakers have responded in different ways. Some, like my favorite Tag Heuer, have embraced smartwatches by teaming up with tech companies to create luxury smartwatches that combine high-tech features with the craftsmanship of a traditional watch. Others are making hybrid watches that look like classic watches but have smart features inside. By the way, do you prefer the convenience of a smartwatch or the timeless appeal of mechanical watches? The same one I have in my hand. Let us know which side you're on in the comments, because I always go for mechanical marvels. As we think about the future of watches, it's clear that smartwatches bring both challenges and opportunities. They may disrupt the traditional watch market, but they also inspire new ideas and creativity. The key for traditional watchmakers will be finding ways to stay important and exciting in a world that's changing fast, while still holding onto the artistry and heritage that make them special. The Quartz Crisis, which once threatened to end mechanical watchmaking, actually led to rebirths in design and marketing. But what we have learned from it? One major lesson was the danger of being overconfident. Swiss watchmakers who had been at the top of the industry for so long didn't see the power of quartz technology coming. They were too sure of their success, and this nearly cost them everything. But the crisis also taught that rushing too quickly into new technology like quartz could be risky if it meant leaving behind the tradition and skills that made Swiss watches special. The brands that did the best during the crisis found a way to adapt while still holding onto their heritage. They embraced both quartz and mechanical technology, balancing innovation with tradition. This allowed them to survive the crisis and came out stronger. However, not all companies handled the crisis well. Some stuck too closely to the past and couldn't keep up with the changing market. Others moved too quickly into quartz and lost the craftsmanship and tradition that made them unique. These stories remind us of the importance of being flexible when the new technology disrupts an industry. The lessons from the Quartz Crisis continue to shape the watch industry today. With the rise of smartwatches, many traditional watchmakers are using what they learned from the Quartz era. They are finding ways to add new technology without losing the essence of what makes them special. This balance between old and new has crafted a more diverse and adaptable industry. Today's watch market includes everything from high-tech smartwatches to beautifully crafted mechanical ones. Watchmakers have learned that there's room for both innovation and tradition. The Quartz Crisis also showed how important it is to tell the story and build a strong identity. As the mechanical watches became more of a luxury item, brands that survived did so by focusing on their heritage, craftsmanship, and unique place in watchmaking history. While smartwatches are all about convenience, mechanical watches offer something unique: history and charm that digital devices can't replicate. Did you know that 75% of watch collectors love these intricate machines for more than just telling time? They see them as companions and connections to the past. Inside each mechanical watch lies a complex system of gears and springs, representing centuries of watchmaking innovation. Unlike quartz or digital watches, mechanical timepieces capture the essence of time through handcrafted precision. Collectors view them as wearable art and marvels of human ingenuity, holding value in their tiny imperfections and historical significance. Today, mechanical watches are regaining popularity, with vintage models increasing by 30% in value over the past 5 years. The Quartz Crisis, which once threatened mechanical watchmaking, ironically sparked a revival, showing there is always a room for traditional alongside technological. Experts don't all agree on what's next. Some think traditional watches might disappear as smartwatches became more popular. Others believe that there will always be a special place for classic mechanical timepieces. Hybrid watches, which combine the best of both worlds, traditional looks with the smart features, are becoming a popular middle ground. These watches appeal to people who love craftsmanship but still want some high-tech features. In the future, wristwatches could do much more than just tell time or send notifications. Imagine a watch that tracks your health in real time, maybe even spotting early signs of illness, or one that changes its function based on where you are and what you are doing. This could lead to two very different types of watches: super high-end mechanical watches that become rare collector's items, and smart devices that blend into everyday life. The watch industry will need to stay ready for new disruptions from emerging technologies like augmented reality or even devices that connect directly to your brains. But the lessons learned from the Quartz Crisis could be a big help. The watch industry has already shown it can adapt, with many companies now offering both quartz and mechanical watches for different types of buyers. The key to thriving in the future might be finding a balance between embracing new technologies and honoring traditional craftsmanship. By diversifying their products and staying flexible, watchmakers can face future challenges head-on. It will be fascinating to see how the industry changes to meet new consumer needs while keeping the artistry and skill that have defined watchmaking for centuries. What do you think? Will smartwatches replace the art of mechanical timepieces, or there is a room for both? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's predict the next chapter of horological history. Time. It's more than just ticking hand or a flashing number. It's the moments that shape our lives and history we carry on our wrists. Whether you're drawn to the precision of modern tech or the timeless elegance of mechanical craftsmanship, one thing is clear. Watches are more than just tools. They are part of who we are. So, as you think about your next watch, what will you choose? Will it be a smartwatch with all the latest features or a mechanical timepiece that tells the story of time itself? Whichever you choose, one thing is certain. Time will always inspire us. We mentioned this revolutionary part of watchmaking history, and you are for sure would love to have a better understanding of Swatch, the savior of Swiss watchmaking. But if you're curious about Rolex marketing genius that bring back mechanical watches as luxury items, take a look here. I use some resources to complement my knowledge about Seiko and Quartz Crisis, and you can find them in the description. Until next time, remember, time never stops, and neither does great style.